everyone, and welcome to another half or bi-monthly manga update video. This is for everything I got in the last 2 weeks of September. Quite a bit to get through, so I won't spend too long on this intro. But first, before I get into anything, I just want to thank all of you, especially my subscribers. I'm now over 800 subscribers, which is huge. I did mention this in another video, but I don't really want people to feel like you have to watch all my videos to kind of know what's going on, so I just want to mention it a couple times. So apologies if it gets a bit repetitive, but I'm just really grateful. Thank you guys so much. I'm planning to do some sort of video, whether that be a Q&A or whatever, at about 850 subscribers. So in some time, I don't know when that will be, but sometime in the future. If you guys have any suggestions as well, you can put them in the comments. I'll definitely read those. And yeah, I'll just get straight to it. So first of all, for the manga, I'm going to show off my my Japanese volume I got this month. I don't generally tend to buy Japanese manga just because I feel it's a bit superfluous for me. I can't read it, so I don't really feel the need to own anything. But this was the limited or the special edition, and it came with a gift that I kind of wanted. So what I got was the 8th volume of Gekkan Shoujo Nozaki-kun, or Monthly Girls Nozaki-kun, as we know it here in English. So the volume is pretty standard, but the extra gift it came with was actually the original tarot, obviously illustrated with Nozaki-kun characters. I believe there is 25 or 26 cards altogether, with 21 of the major arcana, and then 3 special alternate versions of some of the cards, including the Emperor, Wheel of Fortune, and the World. So yes, it is a very nice little set. It comes like a pack of playing cards. Obviously they're not the same as typical playing cards, but it's really nice, bunch of great artwork, and captures the characters pretty well. It's fun seeing who is who in the arcana. On the same that same line of thought, the first English manga I got was volume 4 of Monthly Girls Nozaki-kun. So the most recent volume, I talked a little bit about this in one of my more recent midweek manga videos. Very funny. I'm sure if you're a fan of the series, you will enjoy this one. It's just more of the same. Like with all of Nozaki-kun, it is just a 4-koma series, so it's not having any like huge plot to it. It is just short jokes, but they're very funny and they hit hard when they do. Great cast of characters, really enjoyable, and yeah, I'm pretty sure most people know about Monthly Girls Nozaki-kun at this point. Next is the premiere of a new series released by Viz Media, and that is Jana of the Dawn. I know this one is quite highly anticipated for a lot of people. I saw part of the television show when it was coming out, the anime, and I haven't finished it. I haven't read this volume yet. I'm hoping to get a couple volumes before I start this, but I'm always up for some good fantasy-esque, sort of strong female-led shoujo. And from what I saw of the show, I knew I would enjoy this. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to more of Jana. Next is another one that I talked about in my midweek manga video, and that is volume 6 of Kiss Him Not Me by Junko. This is a very fun series. It doesn't take itself too seriously. Very funny if you're aware of sort of the tropes and just the fujoshi culture in Japan. It's done very well, and I think Junko really knows what she's doing, obviously coming from that subculture herself. It's a fun little book, and if you're not reading the series already, you should give it a shot. It's not your typical shoujo, but it's not like completely new or fresh or anything either. It is just fairly fun, entertaining, good for like a lighthearted read. Next is the newest volume of one of my kind of favorite ongoing series at the moment, and that is Skip Beat Volume 37. This is one of Shoujo Beat's more popular titles. I'm sure they have been releasing this for what seems like forever. Yoshiki Nakamura has done a great job with this series. I highly recommend it to pretty much everyone. It is a shoujo, but it's much more focused on the heroine's like journey of self-discovery and personal betterment and that sort of thing, rather than the romance aspect of it, which is always good to see in a shoujo. You don't really get that type of story. Most of the time it's, oh, well, you know, there's the love triangle and they're in high school and they've got all this to do, and that's the entirety of the series, which is fun for, like, you know, if you just want to turn your brain off and enjoy something for a while. But Skip Beat has those sorts of ideas, but really has a very entertaining cast of characters, I should say, and also has the added twist of there being the whole celebrity culture, acting, and what it means to be like within the public eye. It's really good. I highly, highly, highly recommend this series to everyone. Even if you're not someone who typically likes shoujo either. It's just really fun. Kyoko, the main character, is super likable, and the supporting cast or the other characters are also really fun as well in their own way. Yeah, this is a long one, but it's definitely worth the read. Next is another sort of newish series, and this is a josei, also released by Shoujo Beat, and that is Everyone's Getting Married Volume 2 by Izumi Miyazono. I really enjoyed the first volume of this one. I haven't actually read this volume, I just got it today. As you can probably tell from the title of this one, it does focus a lot on marriage, but it isn't the sort of series that glorifies marriage as the be-all end-all answer for everybody, and it also really incorporates how important it is to talk to your partner about those sorts of, you know, decisions, and how people come to compromises within the relationship. It's really good. I think with a title like Everyone's Getting Married, it's maybe a little off-putting to some people, but it's really not just, oh, you have to get married to be happy, and the only way you can be happy is if you're married and settle down and have all these, you know, house and 2 or 2.5 kids and all this other stuff by age 25 and blah 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 blah. It's really not that sort of series. It's definitely like just a portrayal of a more mature relationship where marriage is an option and it is on people's minds, but it isn't necessarily first priority for a lot of people, especially working people who don't want to, you know, stop work and have a family and do all those sorts of things. But it also has characters who do. They really want to get married and have a family and, you know, all those sorts of things. And both of those are very valid options, and I think very important for people to talk about, especially if you're in a committed relationship. So yes, Volume 2 of Everyone's Getting Married. This is a really good series. I'd highly recommend it if you're a fan of josei. I don't know how long this series will be, but I know it's about 3 or 4 volumes in Japan already, maybe even more. And it seems to be fairly popular, so I'm looking forward to it. Another one that I haven't actually read yet, just because I got it today, is volume 25 of Kimi ni Toroke, From Me to You. This is, I really enjoy this shoujo, but it's definitely one of the longer ones that I feel needs to wrap up in the next couple volumes. I haven't read this volume, like I said. I assume there's going to be a bit more closure of Ayane's relationship, as you can see on the front. I'm just making the assumption from the artwork. But Kimi ni Toroke, very sweet. I think it's the sort of story you can read and just, it fills your heart with, like, how to explain it? Like, it's just so sweet and kind and wonderful and just, I don't know, it just makes you happy when you read it. In saying that, though, it is on volume 25. I think it's the sort of series that needs to end before it gets too monotonous. It's not the sort of thing... I find that shoujo, especially ones just focused on high school romance, need to wrap up within a reasonable time frame. And I think Kimi ni Toroke is pushing it a little bit, but it is still very enjoyable, and I'm looking forward to reading the rest of it. I just don't know when it'll finish and how it will end. Well, I have assumptions on how it'll end, but I don't know whether it will end strongly or not because it's been dragged out. And I wouldn't want something for a series that is so sweet and so nice. You never want a good series to end badly, I think is what I'm trying to say. But yes, Kimi ni Toroke, volume 25. Sheena has done a really good job with this one. I'm sure a lot of people are reading this or have seen the show or are interested in this. I do say pick it up, either through the anime or the manga. But yes, Kimi ni Toroke, very sweet. Next is the final volume of After School Nightmare. This is volume 10, the one I needed. So now I have the entire series in English. I just finished reading this the other day, and this was really, really good. I understand people's disappointment with the ending, and I understand their complaints, and I do agree with quite a few of them, but I don't think the choice of ending makes the series not worth reading, if that makes sense. There were certain choices with the ending that, like an M. Night Shyamalan movie, it has a twist for that you don't see coming, really. And I mean that in kind of, you know, not necessarily like The Village, M. Night Shyamalan, but like, you know, a good, you know, one of his earlier films. You don't see it coming, but I don't necessarily think that it was the correct choice for some of the questions that were answered, or questions that were brought to the table, but it does explain everything. And it does sort of make some of the things feel a bit redundant. Some of the character struggles seem a bit redundant when you look back on the series as a whole after the ending. But in saying that, I do think this is a great series, very worth everyone's time, and I do think that the ending, whilst not the strongest, was very interesting, and that it certainly gives you perspective on the series as a whole. But yes, After School Nightmare, I'm glad I finished it, I'm glad I have it, and I will definitely be rereading it sometime soonish, once I get through all this other manga that I have. It's certainly an interesting one. I think Mizushiro has some great ideas. I also really enjoyed the bit of Black Rose Alice that I read. But yes, After School Nightmare, I believe it's an out-of-print series, but I think you can actually find it pretty easily most places if you are interested in it. Next is another new release, and that is Volume 3 of Inyo Asano's Goodnight Punpun. I haven't read this one either. I'm actually waiting till I have the entire series before I sit down and read all of this. I have read the first volume, and I kind of trust myself and my previous opinions on Asano's work in that I won't regret buying this. So I don't mind waiting to read it all at once. Yeah, but Goodnight Punpun, I'm sure most people know what the series is. I'm sure if you're a fan of Asano, you're already buying this. I don't think I need to convince anyone of the merits of Goodnight Punpun. But yes, I'm looking forward to reading the series once I get it all. I believe we're about halfway through now with these omnibuses. Omnibi? Is that which? I don't know which one is the correct term. So yeah, I think there should be another 3 or 4 omnibi out. And yeah, I will get to it once I finish. Next is one that I was really excited to get. I've been waiting for this volume for months. What feels like months. What feels like forever. And that is Yen Press's release of Volume 8 of A Bride Story by Kaoru Mori. If you're a long-time watcher of these videos, you should know I'm a huge Kaoru Mori fan, and A Bride Story is really my favorite of her series. I think it's phenomenally done. Her just characters, her artwork, her story is just really well thought out, imagined, and presented. This volume focuses on this character on the front here, Paria, and sort of the aftermath of the previous couple volumes. In the previous couple of volumes, we did have our Amir and Paria and her the town in which they live under siege, and because of that there was a lot of buildings destroyed, a lot of fires and destruction and just all sorts of things. And in that, Paria lost pretty much the entirety of her dowry. So her intended, or the family that her family is sort of negotiating with for marriage, she has a lot of issues and a lot of nervousness in asking her possibly intended husband to wait the foreseeable several years until she makes or embroiders a lot more of her dowry to replace everything that was lost. It's really good. I think this series shows a whole variety of relationships and how they can work and how they can't. I've said previously that Amir and her husband, the main relationship in this series, is done incredibly well, especially considering that there's such a huge age gap and her husband is so much younger than her. It's shown that it does show that it is a mutual respectful relationship, and like I said, it's done really well, even if you're not into age gaps or anything like that. But it also has some of the characters who aren't really necessarily mature enough to be married. They don't fully sort of understand. I'm mainly talking about the twin characters in this series who were in several volumes back now, because I think they're volumes 4 and 5, who are very much acting their age and sort of just get married because it's expected of them. And whilst they do care about their husbands, neither of them are really at that age where they can take like a committed relationship seriously. Paria, on the other hand, I feel is definitely one of the characters who is very nervous about her own prospects of marriage, and she worries so much, and I feel really bad for her because she's such a good person, but a lot of her, like the townspeople in her own family, don't ever really think she has any suitability to be married. They're like, oh, we're never gonna get you married off, you don't have the personality for it, you have all these problems, blah blah blah. And I just feel so sorry for her. And Umar, the guy whom she is hoping to marry, he's so nice, like he's such a good kid. I don't know, these damn 15-year-olds, like I don't know, for me, I find that characters who can communicate with each other, respect each other, and enjoy each other's company more so than just like, oh, you're so beautiful, I saw you from across the way, and you know, it was love at first sight. I don't like those sorts of relationships in media as much as I do people who actually act like people and act like they should in a relationship. But I'm getting off topic. A Bride Story Volume 8 was phenomenal. Just like I do with all of Mori's work, I'll go inside with the artwork. We do have quite a few. There's a lot of detail work in these volumes because we have a lot of embroidery here. It's done beautifully as expected. And it's just a really, really nice series. There is, of course, always a hint of drama in the background, and you do see pretty much all the characters in this one. Not some of the, or at least majority of the characters within Amir and Karluk's town. And it's done really, really well. So I highly recommend this. I believe this is a seinen series, technically. But everyone should read it. Everyone should read it. I am a big fan of Mori's work, but I definitely think A Bride Story is the stronger of her two like multi-volume series. Emma is very, 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 very good. But A Bride Story, I think, has just a little bit of edge over it. But, of course, Emma is completed, where this is still ongoing, and I am really looking forward to Volume 9. I never seem to be able to wait between volumes with this series, and I now have to wait several months for the next one. But I guess I'll just have to reread it all in preparation for the next volume. Next is Volume 4 of Fruits Basket by Natsuki Takaya. These are the, obviously, more recent collector's edition releases of this series. Yeah, still the same great series that you have come to expect with Fruits Basket. I think that the new translation is done very well. I like the large trim size of these, and I really enjoy having the opportunity to reread this story. I haven't read Fruits Basket in quite a while, so revisiting it again, I'm really happy to see that my enjoyment of the series has held up despite it being a few years. Yeah, so I do recommend Fruits Basket. I think it's one of the classic modern shoujos, and definitely one that people should try. Yen has done a pretty decent job, pretty great job on this series, and it's really good to have something that is such a, I think, influential series available again in English. So yeah, I do really highly recommend these editions if you're interested in this series, and it's just been really fun rereading this story again. Next is another thing I talked a lot about in my last midweek manga video, and that is the Baccano light novel. This is volume 2, 1931, The Grand Punk Railroad Local. I spoke at length about this volume and the series in general. I'm a huge fan of Baccano, and I actually ended up watching the show again pretty much immediately after that video. This is a great series. I think that Yen has done a really, really good job with their translation and adaptation of it. Ryogo Narita, I honestly believe that this is his sort of magnum opus. I do enjoy Durarara, but I find Baccano the much stronger story with a lot more likable characters. So if you're not a fan of Durarara, definitely try Baccano, because it's not really, it has the same sort of story style insofar as there's multiple perspectives coming towards one cohesive story, but it's not the same in the sense of setting and characters and everything else. Yeah, Baccano is fantastic. I can't wait until volume 3, which is sort of the other half of this main storyline from other characters' perspectives. And it's just done incredibly well. I think there's a lot of great, really likable characters introduced in this volume. It's almost an entirely new cast compared to the first volume. The only returning characters, aside from small cameos, are Isaac and Miria, which is always a good thing. More Isaac and Miria is always a wonderful thing to have. But yes, Baccano, the second light novel, fantastic series. I think it's definitely one of my favorite light novel series coming out at the moment. I don't really know. I'm not really picking up that many light novels aside from this one and Durarara, but I am planning on getting more of A Devil is a Part-Timer. And there's such a huge amount of light novels coming out nowadays, especially compared to, 5 years ago. And if you're a bit sick of some of the recent tropes within light novels, i.e. this, one guy who has a power and then he falls in, or a normal guy who falls into a game world and then he meets all these girls and they have to fix the thing and do all this and everything else that is so abundant within light novels recently. And I mean that across the board. Things like Log Horizon, Sword Art Online, of course, No Game, No Life, even things like, is it Wrong to Pick Up Girls in the Dungeon? That's sort of the current state of the light novel market. Baccano is a bit older. It's probably, the earlier volumes are probably over a decade old now, so it doesn't really fall into a lot of the traps that current light novels do. So I definitely recommend you getting this one as well if you're a bit sick of the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of action, a lot of excitement and drama. And if you've seen the show, then it's just returning to some characters that you probably already love and enjoy and want to see more of. Hit the camera. I'm almost done, I promise. Next is another probably odd one for a lot of people, and that is Professor Munakata's British Museum Adventure by Hoshino Yukinobu. So it was similarly to things like Rohan at the Louvre and Guardians of the Louvre. This was done specifically for the British Museum and published by them. It's very interesting. I don't really know how to explain this one. It's probably a bit more of an odd sort of single volume series, but it is like those other ones I mentioned before, more so a piece to show off the landmark itself, more so to educate the reader about the British Museum than like actually having a larger plot at hand. But if you enjoy things like that, I do recommend it. It's, you know, short one volume series, and I mean, it's worth reading if nothing else. Next is the third and final volume of Thermae by Mari Yamazaki. Yeah, so this is the last 2 volumes collected in one omnibus of the kind of surreal comedy series about a ancient Roman time traveling through public baths to end up in modern day Japan and learning all about just onsen sort of procedures and standards and all sorts of things, and then taking it back to ancient Rome to incorporate it there. It is definitely a very odd sort of fish out of water humor based manga, and it is fun. It's definitely one that is sort of low, I think, on a lot of people's radars. It was really nice being able to collect the series, and it's great that Yen Press gave us the opportunity to own this fun little series, because it is very well regarded, but, you know, 5-10 years ago we wouldn't have seen something like this available in English, I don't think. So yes, I'm glad to now have the whole series. I am going to finish reading it, and hopefully, yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. And finally, for manga, I have one BL title. One I actually haven't even opened yet, because, again, this is one I got today. And that is Don't Be Cruel by Yonezo Nekota. I gave my thoughts and opinions on this volume, or this series, with the last video I had this series in. I don't even remember, was it, I think, earlier this month, maybe last month? I don't know. I don't remember. This, I have some background. I do believe, I have no memory of this story really, but I do believe I read quite a bit of it via scans several years ago, and I was quite surprised when I was reading the first 2 volumes, or the first omnibus, just how dubious it was in the first volume, and then shifted to pretty typical like high school romance in the second volume. And from what I remember, the series does stick to that more typical kind of just high school relation, that first volume. So I'm thinking with this one, it should be more of the same of the second volume, and less of the really dodgy blackmail rape stuff that was the first volume. But Don't Be Cruel, bit of a mixed bag. I haven't read this one yet. I'm sure a lot of people have also read this and know their opinions on it. It's certainly not one to go blind into if you're not a fan of like dubious non-consensual stuff, which I really am not, but from what I remember, it doesn't stay like that, so I am thinking that it gets better. I can only assume. In any case, I have the second volume. I am going to be reading it sometime in the foreseeable future, and I think I'll make my decision after this volume. If it stays, as I expect, within those sorts of typical high school drama, romance, typical stuff you see in BL, then I'm fine with it, and I'll keep buying whatever volumes I need of it. If it does shift back to the sort of dodgy stuff, I will just decide that it's not something for me, and I will stop buying it. But either way, volumes 3 and 4, released by Sublime, which is Viz's BL line. So don't be afraid to wait on this. It's not going to go out of print or anything. Unlike things from June. But yeah, so I know this one is very highly regarded as well. Like, a lot of people have good opinions of the series, and a lot of people were waiting for more Nekota series to be released. So it is a step in the right direction. I like having a lot of variation within all sorts of genres, including BL. So yeah, it's good to be seeing some more new stuff and sort of well-established series coming to English via BL as well. But yes, Don't Be Cruel volumes 3 and 4 in this second omnibus. And that is it, I believe. That's all of the manga that I got for this month. Quite a bit, or not this month, this last 2 weeks. It's not even a month. It always seems like so little when I receive it, and then I stack it all up here and it's so much. I don't know how so many things get to me within such a short amount of time. I'll just get this 2 stacks worth. A lot of Viz stuff this month. But I think Viz releases a lot of their stuff at the beginning of the month. So it is a lot of October stuff that's come early. But yes, thank you all so much for watching. I hope this was pretty enjoyable. Something for most everyone in this update. And I'll see you in the next video, guys. Bye. Thanks till then.